Veterinarians say any dog can bite. It doesn't matter the breed or the breed of the dog, boy or girl, big or small. Experts say children are the most common victims of dog bites and are more likely to be seriously injured. They add dogs bite for many reasons, but most commonly as a reaction to something.
They're a species that uses their mouth for control. And sometimes they don't know how to learn how to do it properly. Sometimes dogs can be orphans, or they cannot have a good mother raising them, have something that interferes with their behavioral development.